hope you are having a fantastic spooky season so far. In honor of fall, I did start a Nosferatu double feature here. Hold them up. Got these from the library, but while doing a little bit of research for this video, I found they're both on YouTube, so I'll provide links. If you guys want, I highly recommend watching them. They're quite enjoyable. But yeah, Nosferatu is up first because it's the oldest. It had its 100th anniversary last year, so. And then after that, we'll be watching the kind of fictionalized making of for this. It's kind of the behind the scenes. But yeah. Yeah, it's based off Dracula, which is kind of how it was preserved. Dracula was still under copyright, and they didn't secure permission before making this movie, and by that I mean they definitely got a straight up no from Stoker's estate. So Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, his family sued the makers of Nosferatu, and they won. So all the prints in Germany were straight up destroyed. The film as we see it today was restored from versions that had been released in other countries, and kind of patched it back together, with the notes of the director. Yeah, this one's a silent film, in case you didn't guess that from the release date of 1922. There is a remake from the 1970s that's a talkie. We'll talk about that later. Also I found that they are making, part of my research, they're making a remake of this, like, right now. It's in post-production. It's, I forget the guy's first name, like, I want to say Richard Eggers, last name Eggers. He's the guy who directed, like, The Northman and, The Witch, or The Vavitch, however you say that. That guy. He's making Nosferatu, so that looks pretty neat. It's gonna have Willem Dafoe, who's in this one. It also is going to have Nicholas Hoult, who's in the Renfield movie, as Renfield. And then Bill Skarsgård plays Count Orlok. So look out for that sometime in the future. I'll probably do a rewatch of these closer to that release date. Right now it just says 2024, so. But yeah. On we go. Yeah, if you've seen What We Do in the Shadows, the original movie from New Zealand, the character Peter, is basically a parody of Count Orlok from Nosferatu. There's some really cool moments in this, like when he gets out of his coffin, about the 50-minute mark, he doesn't just, like, sit up, he, like, pivots from his feet. And it's genuinely impressive shot. Like, I have no idea how they did this in 1922. Because, like, it just burp. Yeah, unfortunately, there is a sailor who's just making the silliest faces, like, at the same time, going on in the same scene. It undermines it a little bit. The DVD had different audio tracks to choose from. At first, I watched, if you happen to find the same DVD, I watched the version with the orchestra, and this one's orchestra is not good. They didn't always seem to be paying attention to the movie. Like, it didn't always seem to be, like, I don't know, it didn't seem to mesh with the scenes that were actually going So I switched to the organ version, the big old piano things. And I don't know. It just seems more fitting to silent movies for me. Like, there was a old movie theater here in this town where I live, where I saw my first movie, which was a silent movie, and they had a big old organ. So silent movies, they're supposed to have organs. I don't care. But I and I feel like organs just kind of fit better with vampire movies. But yeah, in the links I included both, like two different versions for Nosferatu. One has an organ, one has an orchestra, so you can choose which one you watch. But it is a different orchestra than I watched, so I scoped it out a little bit. It is a better done orchestra than this one was. So yeah, this is just me judging the orchestra on this particular DVD. There's probably different editions that have different orchestras altogether. Yeah, but back to the movie. It's kind of, they make kind of weird choices, like design wise, like the Nosferatu looking like this, like he's got like these sharp, like bunny teeth, and he's got like weird pointed ears and stuff, and it's like, but like bat wing pointed, like it's weird. It doesn't really look, aside from when they're parodying this directly, it doesn't really look like a vampire you'd see in anything else. Also, I don't know if you can see him, but the Renfield on the back here, he's also weird looking, and it's like, it's just silly. There's also a moment where they point out a werewolf in the movie when they're like riding through Transylvania. It's not, they say it's not Transylvania. I think it's supposed to be Czechoslovakia or something, but because they basically changed the names to not get sued, and that didn't work. But yeah, anyways, there's a werewolf that they point out, and it's straight up just a hyena. I'm like, 1922, you couldn't get footage of just a wolf? But yeah, overall, this movie is definitely worth a watch. It's so influential for later movies. Has some really cool shots that are like worth paying attention to. Also, it's only 81 minutes, so like if you got an hour 20, this is a breeze. But yeah, if you don't do silent movies, maybe not. So yeah. Up next, we have this making of film called In the Shadow of the Vampire. It's kind of obscured by the sticker. This film basically imagines, like, what if, while they were making Nosferatu, that the actor, Max Schreck, what if he was actually a vampire? Which is funny because apparently when Nosferatu was released, there was rumors of him really being a vampire, because this was like the only movie. There were rumors here in the United States, should specify. This was like the only one of his movies that made it here, so people were like, it's the only time we've seen this guy. Maybe he really is a vampire. But anyways, yeah, so this one is, one of the producers for it is Nicolas Cage, who appeared as Dracula in the movie Renfield that came out last year. And so, like, clearly the man has a thing for the German expressionism, cause and vampires. If you saw the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which about Nicolas Cage, he talks about the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari being his favorite film. That was directed by this guy, by the same director, Murnau. So I'm thinking Nicolas Cage is a big old movie geek. Anyways, but yeah, the connections that he also played Dracula. This movie does unfortunately have one of my movie pet peeves. They speak German randomly. Like, it's supposed to take place all in German. You're in Germany. Like, it doesn't make sense for there just to be a random sentence of German, just, okay, audience, in case you don't know where we're at, German. And it's like, no, they should be speaking German the whole time, and this is like through the universal translator from Star Trek. Like, why? Movies do this and it annoys me. Anyways, this movie also has The Shadow of the Vampire also has Cary Elwes as a cameraman. He was in the Dracula that was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who is Nicolas Cage's uncle. Willem Dafoe is also perfect as Orlok. I mean, the makeup isn't exactly the same as the original guy, but he's still perfect. Also, the fact, I also learned a fun fact. The producers of Spider-Man, so Raimi and all them, saw Shadow of the Vampire and cast him as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man. So we wouldn't have had him in the Spider-Man movies. So without this, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, they recreated quite a few shots in this guy. From this guy, where I don't think you could honestly appreciate the Shadow of the Vampire without seeing Nosferatu. Just because you wouldn't notice, like, oh, that's referencing that there. Yeah, they go so beyond for this silly premise. I absolutely love this film. I'm adding it to my movie wish list. The only real issue with it is how they portray Murnau, the director, the real life director. He wasn't like a dictatorial control freak that they make him out to be. That could be used to describe our next director. So originally I was just planning on doing the double feature. These were the only two I got. But then, when I was looking on links for YouTube for these guys for you to watch if you want, I found the Nosferatu remake, made in 1979. It was directed by Werner Herzog, who you Star Wars fans might know as the Client from Mandalorian. You know, the guy who's like, I'd like to see the baby, with that cool accent. Anyways, he does appear in the 73 movie as a guy who sticks his foot into the coffin and gets his toe bitten by a rat. So there's that. Speaking of rats, there's a lot of them in that movie. Also, I read the trivia and behind the scenes, the rats were not treated well. So if either of those things bother you, honestly, I maybe skip it. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the 79 remake. I know it's on a bunch of people's, like, 1,000 movies to see before you die kind of lists, but I just didn't care for it. The movie has Van Helsing being kind of a wuss. Like, in other movies, he's like, heck yeah, let's go kill some vampires. Here he's like, oh, let's be patient. Maybe it'll work out. Also, they could finally use the names from the Dracula novel, as the copyright had run out by that time. That's honestly probably why there are so many, like, Dracula movies in the 60s, is because they were like, free reign. Remake it all you want. But, yeah, it's weird. Oh, and also, just to keep playing our vampire movie Connecty game, Klaus Kinski, who plays Dracula in the 79 version of Nosferatu, He played Renfield in the 1970s Count Dracula. So these people just keep popping up everywhere. They did cool thing, I think. They shot the movie both at the same time in German and English, because the studio wanted to try to appeal to the English-speaking market, and Herzog didn't want it to be, like, cheaply dubbed. So, the link I included is the English version, by the way, so don't have to worry about subtitles. Also, cool fact is originally Werner Herzog intended the film to be, or the Transylvanian scenes to be filmed in Transylvania, and he even scouted and decided upon some locations, but the Romanian government, because Transylvania is now part of Romania, the government under the communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, I'm like 95% sure I mispronounced that. Anyways, the dictator at the time would not allow the production of the film, of any film that associated Vlad II Dracul, Vlad Tepes, the namesake of Bram Stoker's vampire, with anything but a national hero, which is Romanians still see him as a national hero, not as somebody who did bad things to his own people. Research the real Dracula. It's a wild ride. Or Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler. But yeah, that was my Nosferatu movie marathon. If you watch any of these movies, let me know in the comments what you think. If you don't watch them, I don't know, maybe comment your favorite vampire. No Twilight characters. They are not real vampires. Vampires die in the sun. They do not sparkle. I will die on this hill. But yeah. And the third one. Thank you for watching this, and talk at you later. And this doesn't want to stop.